Students, today we are going to learn chapter number 3, fiber to fabric. In this chapter we learn about how we obtain a natural fibers from like wool and silk. Okay, now let's try to understand about the fibers. There are two different types of fibers, natural and synthetic fibers. If we talk about natural fibers, there are two types of natural fibers. First, plant fibers and animal fibers. Now, what do you mean of animal fibers? Sorry, plant fibers. First of all, fibers which we obtain from the plants are called plant fibers, while which we get from animals are called obtained from animals are called animal fibers. As well as synthetic fibers that are manufactured in factories from chemicals are called synthetic fibers. Right? Fabrics are defined as a cloth material made by knitting or weaving or of threads together is called what? Fabrics, right? Now, cotton, wool, jute, and silk are the example of natural fibers, as well as natural fibers are eco-friendly fibers, right? While synthetic fibers, polyester, nylon, acrylic are the example of it, right? And it is also known as what? Man-made fibers. Now let's go with the different kinds of fibers. See here, flax, hemp, polyester, rayon, silk, wool are the different kinds of fibers. Now, animal fibers. Silk and wool are fibers obtained from animals, so are known as what? Animal fibers. Wool fibers come from sheep, camel, goat, and yak, and the process involved in making animal fibers into wool follows a series of steps like shearing, scoring, sorting, cleaning, dyeing, straightening, rolling, and combing. As well as for the silk fibers are obtained from the silkworm, and the process of obtaining silk from the silkworm is called sericulture, right? And the silk thread or the yarn is obtained from the silk moth's cocoon. See here some pictures of the wool yielding animals, sheep, right? Now, how we obtain fibers from the wool? Wool is an animal fiber obtained from the fleece of animals like sheep and goat, etc. Now, what do you mean of fleece? The thick covering of wool on animal's body, right, is called fleece. Fleece already trapping air in the space between them, preventing to their body, right, and keeps them warm. Wool is a better insulator than synthetic fibers like nylon, polyester, and other natural fibers like cotton and silk. We wear woolen clothes in winter to protect ourselves from the cold, right? Wool is mostly obtained from the fleece of a sheep. There are two types of fibers we get from it. First is coarse beard hair, and another is soft under hair. Now, see the process of how we obtain a fibers from the wool. Yeah, in another word, we can say wool produced from sheep. Sheep are reared for their hair to make wool. Some steps involved in the production of wool are as follows: shearing, scoring, grading, dyeing, drying, and spinning. Let's see about shearing. The process of removing the fur from the sheep using a manual razor or a clipper is called shearing. See in the picture, so you come to know how the process of shearing is already done. It is usually done every year in spring or in summer season, as fleece is not required as an insulator during these months. Otherwise, it's a protection for what? Dead animals. Second is scoring. The seared fleece is systematically washed in tanks to remove dirt, dust, and grease is called scoring, right? The third step, the scored hair is then sorted and sent to a factory where hair of different textures are separated or sorted. The dyed fibers are sent for carding, where these dyed uh, fibers are strengthened by passing them through metal teeth. This process of strengthening the dyed fibers is termed as carding, right? After it, next drying. The wool is dried and sent for spinning into yarn. It is then packed into bales. So the wool is then ready to be thrown into fibers. And last, spinning. The fibers are dyed into various vibrant colors because the natural color of the fleece is black, brown, or white. And last steps, the fibers are then strengthened, combed, and finally rolled into yarn is known as what? Spinning, right? Like this way, we obtain wool from the sheep. Got it? Now then after we are going to learn about silk and its production. In it we'll discuss about life cycle, a life history of silk moth, as well as how we produce silk from the mulberry plants, right? Silk is an animal fiber obtained from the thread like filaments spun by silkworms. Silk is soft, lustrous, and does not conduct heat, and it keeps us warm in winter, right? Silk does not conduct heat and is thus a good insulator and keeps us warm in winters and cool in summers. Now let's try to understand about the life cycle of silk moth. The silk moth worm is the larva or caterpillar of the domesticated silk moth, right? A silkworm eats white mulberry leaves, but it may also eat the leaves of any other mulberry tree. It is entirely dependent on humans for its reproduction and no longer occur naturally in the wild. The female silk moth, which is shorter and then the male lays 300 to 400 eggs at a time, 200 to 300, sorry, 200 to 300 eggs at a time, right? Then after the silkworm, after 20 to 25 days, the eggs hatch and the larva of silkworms emerge. Then after cocoon, a protective layer or a silky web spun is developed around the larva, right? The silkworm secretes fine filaments from their glands, which are made of protein and harden on exposure to heat. The next steps after that is the silkworm secretes fine filaments from their glands, which are made up of proteins. The filaments are deposited in layers forming what? Cocoon. Inside the cocoon, the silkworm transforms itself, and this stage is called pupa, right? Then after, the silkworm continues to develop inside the cocoon and change into an adult. So like this way, silk fibers are obtained from the cocoon of silkworms. Again, the same life cycle begins from here: egg, larva, pupa, developing moth, and adult. Now let's try to understand how to produce silk. Yeah, we can say what is the procedure, processing of how silk. As we know, the rearing of silkworms for the production of a silk is called sericulture. It involves the different steps, like say in the given picture, so you come to know well. First, the silkworm eggs are washed and are put in conditions which enable them to hatch. Then after, the larvae are spread on trays to grow and are fed on chopped mulberry leaves for about a month. Twigs are placed on the trays to enable worms to spin cocoons. These cocoons are then delivered to the factory where silk is unwound from the cocoons. The cocoons are then sorted according to the color, size, and its shapes, because most of them is obtained in white, yellow, or grayish in color. Then selected cocoons are then first boiled in hot water to kill the larva present inside it, right? Then the cocoons are placed in hot and cold water alternatively to loosen the filament. If the larvae are not killed and are allowed to grow again, they will break the cocoon by reducing the length of fiber. Then the filaments are taken out from the cocoon by the process called reeling. Reeling means what? Obtaining silk fibers from cocoon. Then the filaments of several cocoons are twisted all together to make a strong thread, and this thread is wound on a reel, and the silk threads are then dyed and woven into silk fabric. It is interesting to know there are three grades of silk obtained from a cocoon, like such: real silk, spun silk, and nail silk. And different varieties of silk moths produce different varieties of silk, like tussar silk, muga silk, and kosha silk. So like this way we obtain silk from the by doing sericulture. Got it? So all of you understood? Sure. Okay, bye.